So once again, welcome back to iconapprentice. Hi, I'm Nancy Keener, and thanks for joining me as we continue to paint and write Michael the Archangel. We are going to be beginning our first flesh, so it'll be the face and the hands and the legs. And so, as always, we begin with prayer, placing ourselves in front of God, asking for the intentions, the thanksgiving, and the praise that we intend to write into our icon. We're starting now with our Flesh 1 color, which is the orange color, and I will have the mixture. It's something that you can't buy. We mix this up. I will have that description in the description box. I'll have the formula for achieving this color. We're going to begin laying that over the Sankir, which is our base coat. And again, the Sankir is also a color that we mix up to get our base flesh color. So as we begin Flesh 1, just remember that less is always more when we're talking about flesh. It's very easy to add an extra layer. It's not always so easy to take away if we've added too much. Right now, what we're doing is we are putting in our features. So we're putting in the eyelids, we're putting in the nose, we're indicating where the lips will go. We're indicating the forehead, where the eyebrows are going to be, the cheekbones, the chin, and the neck area. It's very important to use the right brush. I am currently using my number 3 round. And the reason I chose the number 3, this is a small face. If it were a little bit larger face, I would be using a larger brush. My rule of thumb is always use the largest brush possible for the area that you're working on at this time. And so I chose the number 3. As I go down and you see me pick up the paint, you'll also see me rolling that brush. And what happens when I roll the brush after I've picked up the paint, I'm taking off any excess paint that may be on the brush, and I'm also creating a very nice crisp point on my number 3 round. What this allows me to do is to go in and place small amounts in a very precise area, especially around the eye area and the nose area and the lips. These are very small features. So we have completed the entire face, and that was with one loading of the brush. I just now went back to my paint and reloaded into that Flesh 1 color. And now I'm beginning on the hand. Now in the beginning, the very first layer that we're putting on of this Flesh 1 color is going to be an overall just a nice consistency from beginning to end. We're not trying to highlight or reinforce one area over the other. It's just simply a very nice consistency of this first paint over the flesh. Once we come back in and start our second and third layers of this color, then we're going to begin to place more emphasis on parts of the flesh than we are currently. So in the beginning here, we're just going to go through and just place the paint down in a consistent manner, making sure that we get all of that flesh color covered. As we begin working on the legs, this is a much larger area than any of the other flesh. And so one of the things that's important is that we not create a streakiness when we lay down our paint. If you can see the way that I am applying this paint, it's almost in a little crisscross or an Xing motion. Xing or cross stroke motion does is keeps us from laying down the paint in lines and creating patterns in our paint. It gives a little bit smoother application. When we start our second coat, we always shrink up. So less is more once again. So instead of going all the way out to the edges, we're going to stay in a little bit closer. We'll still cover from the center out. We work from the center out. At the center of the face is going to be the brightest area. So we always apply our paint first toward the center of the face and then work outward, each time not going quite as far out as we did on the previous layer. And the face, of course, we're working in triangular patterns, especially around the cheek areas. As we move on to the hand, this is where in the second coat we are going to try to distinguish between the fingers and indicate the brightest part of the hands. So we're not going all the way to the edge. We're staying kind of in the middle and toward the top of the hand where the light would normally lay. So the next step would be to do the knees. You should try to place them at about the same place on both legs. Remember that the staff on this leg is passing across the front of the leg, so don't cut the knee off right at the staff because it's going to continue on behind that where we really can't see. So make sure that you're not bringing it to a point right at that staff. The other thing to be conscious of is that we are not going all the way to the very top of the leg with this layer. We're going to stop just short of it. We want to give some dimension to the leg, so we're not going all the way to the edge, neither are we going all the way to the top, where the leg would normally be darker under the undergarments anyway. This should be our third layer of flush 1, and we're paying attention to where the brightest brights should be. We always begin in the center of the face. That's going to be the brightest, and it goes out in a radiating motion. So under the eyes especially, we're working in smaller triangular shapes, getting closer to the mouth, the nose, and keeping it bright around the eyes and the chin. As you can see on this third layer, I started at the bottom of the legs. I left a small area that I've designated as the knee, and then I started doing the top layer. So you can see where I indicate where I intend for the knees to be. I'm completing the flesh, and once I get all the top flesh done, and remember, don't go all the way to the top of the leg, then I'll go back in and I'll reinforce the area where I want the knee to appear. At this point, everything is being colored consistently. We're not leaving a lot of obvious joint or lines where joints or kneecaps or bends in the knee will be. What we're looking for is a nice smooth consistency, feathering out and allowing the outer edges to remain dark while the center of the leg gets brighter and brighter. This will start giving us a contouring of the leg. And that is our third coat then of flesh 1. The fourth layer of our flesh 1. Here I'm starting with the legs, and I'm starting to add highlighting where I really want the legs and the knees to be the brightest. And I'm trying to make sure that where the knees are and going up and down from that knee, I'm adding in extra brightness just in those areas. That's where I want the brightest part of my legs to be. Then I'm going to be going up and starting on the face with the fourth coat and highlighting the face in smaller and smaller areas. To the cheeks, I start in the corners of the eyes and go out, but I'm working in almost like a triangular fashion, kind of like we were doing on the legs. Smaller and smaller triangles just in the area right around the eyes and down the nose and into the mouth and chin area, leaving the outer edges of the face to be a little bit darker. I'm also working on the neck area. The brightest portion is on the left side of the neck. And so as I add additional highlights, I'm not going all the way over to the other side of the neck. I'm stopping about halfway. And you can see I've created a very small little line in the neck just to indicate like a little fold of skin. for flesh 2, which is going to be our yellow flesh. Right, this is where we are going to start defining the facial features, and we'll be leaving some very small areas that won't have, we're going to cover almost all of this, but not the whole thing. And we'll leave little small areas that we could have a tiny bit of this orange color shining through. Not a whole lot. So we lay the paint down. I'm going to clean my brush off, and then I'm just going to draw that paint up. Till it's all gone. Very light coat on these eyelids, and the next time that I come in to do the eyelid, I'm not going to go all the way up to the brow. I'm only going to go right next to the eye, which would be the brightest area. For the ears, we'll start with the tips. We'll come down a little bit, leave a tiny little line there, come down, leave a tiny little line, do the other tip of the ear. So we're trying to show some definition. Alright, the nose, like a fish. Here's the tail. Tail goes down to like right where the eyes meet. Leave a little line of the orange. Come down for the body, stop here, and then we'll make the round part the head. That's the tip of the nose, and then the nostrils on either side. And that's how we distinguish the nose. We're going to go under the eyes, right up next to, all the way out. We're leaving very little orange, but some parts the orange is peeking through. Going all the way to the edge of the chin. This is a very, very light coat. And I'm coming around the mouth. Come up to the other eye, all the way up to the eye, the nose. Be careful not to overwork the area. I do this occasionally myself. Come right up underneath the mouth. Do the chin. Come down. And the mouth. It's so very tiny.
If you feel better using a smaller brush, do so. Remember, it has a little dip right here in the center. Just using the tip of my brush, just barely going in there and highlighting that. I got a little crazy with that. Just dab it off, come down, rework it. Okay, we'll come down here. I am not going to go all the way over. I'm going to leave that, and this is where I'm going to leave another little line, a little orange line here. Right in there, peeking through. Just to designate where a crease in the neck would be. Alright, we'll come over here. There are not going to be any knuckles because he's gripping this lance, so you're not going to see. This is the first knuckle is gripping that, so you're not going to see these shorter knuckles and the tips, so we're not going to have to do any knuckles. Normally we would leave a little line for those. Really bright area right here. Now, when we come over here, we are going to leave a little tiny line here just because this is like just a portion of the back of the hand. This is that finger coming over. It will have a short knuckle and then the tip. So we are leaving a little line here and a small line there. So little finger, no. So there will be some kind of demarcation there. And now we are going to come to the knee. Oh, this should be fun. This should be fun, she said. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start, we'll designate where the knee's going to be. And then we're going to leave a little bit of line. A little bit of a line under the knee, a little bit of a line over the knee. And then we're going to spread our color up and down from there. this first. The first coat, it's going to go almost all the way up to the top of the leg, but we're not going to go that far up, and it's going to be a very pale light coat. Remember, we're covering really almost all of this orange except for where we said we wanted like a joint to stand out. So
with this coat on the hand, we're starting to designate where the knuckles on the back of the hand would be. And you can see I'm putting a little bit extra just in those areas where I think the knuckles would stand out. And I'm not doing too much right now on this layer to make that very smooth. I just want that indication of where those brighter areas are.
So right now I think what we want to do is let's put his hair in before we get too much further on with the skin. And of course we're going to give him brown hair. That's traditional. And it's going to be, we're going to use a little bit of burnt sienna with a tad of dark green added to that. And to that, let's put a little bit of our glaze medium. Put about 3 drops in there. Let's see what this will do for us. And of course, the reason I would use glaze medium for this initial coat is because we'll put several different coats of paint on the hair to get it to the color that we like. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to be lifting the paint that's on the bottom. So if we use a little bit of glaze medium, that helps that paint adhere to the icon and helps to keep it from lifting as we put successive layers on it. All right. Just turn it upside down here just so I can kind of work, and it's just going to be just a wash. I'm not trying to put anything in there as far as, you know, shapes or anything, so I'm not trying to indicate locks of hair. That will come with the next one.